Good afternoon, everyone. I think if you look at the topic which we have been given, and it's a buzzword, and everybody is talking about it, whether you go to any conferences, whether you go to any marriages, or whether you go for any social network, the what is called as Gen AI, that word is being used everywhere, right? Whether you know the subject or you don't know the subject, everybody is contributing it, and that's the Gen AI, right? So, but here we are with my fellow panelists. We are going to talk about the LLMs for cybersecurity, leveraging Gen AI for the security defense. So, and I'm very thankful to DSCI to bring out a very pertinent topic and a very pertinent use case of this topic. We all know artificial intelligence. We, as a human, intelligent people have developed artificial intelligence. We all know about it. We all talk about it. But just to go back and to give my perspective, see, humans, we have grown up for so many years, and we all need a language to communicate to each other. If somebody from DSA just close that door, little noise coming. We need a language to communicate, right? We need word, we need semantics, we need grammar. And when we have developed artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence also need a language to communicate. Way back in 1966, ELIZA is the model name, you can search about it. And then while the AI technology grew up, we all started adopting it. What happened is that the second language model started in 2017 afterwards. And that's where these transformative models have taken up everything. And we all know, right? We all discovered, if I may use that word, the LLMs after the ChatGPT, right? And one thing which I can see, or I have faced, or I have observed that after the ChatGPT, one of the most positive impact of ChatGPT on the corporate world, that our emails are very sophisticated now. True? That's true. So that's where the LLMs are. And now when we talk about the LLMs being used, artificial intelligence, we talk about the LLM. Now let's talk about the cybersecurity, right? Because what has happened, and if you imagine a graph, the impact of a cyber attack has widened as much as possible. The complexity, the way the cyber attacks been crafted has increased as much as possible. But the cost to do the attack has reduced as much as possible. And all these three parameters together makes a very interesting case study to use LLM for the cyber security. And in this panel, as we are in a more responsible forum, we will talk about how LLMs can enhance the capability of the cyber security defense or cyber defense. And that's where my fellow partners, panelists are there. I will open to panelists and I'll request, the way I have put few of my thought processes, let's take a minute and a half or 2 minutes for all of you and give your thoughts on the LLMs and cybersecurity. May I start with you, Smriti?
Thank you so much for providing this opportunity. And indeed, it is an interesting topic. As we have already mentioned that ChatGPT has become more of like a household term these days. So everyone just knows it from the ChatGPT. But when it comes to technicality, okay, LLM is the one that we are actually talking about. So definitely, it has had a lot of importance and has revolutionized cyber defense, cybersecurity defense over the past year. While there have been several kinds of attacks and even in the traditional ways, our traditional models or traditional cybersecurity solutions weren't much capable. And even if we see today, there are so many ways by which the sophisticated attacks are bypassing those security solutions. But when we have the LLM and especially the generative AI-based cybersecurity solutions, there have been several such instances where we are able to track the phishing emails, and even there are ways where ChatGPT is being leveraged to identify any zero-day attacks in existing code snippets as well, like even in a much better manner. So that's where we see that it has got a lot of potential.
We'll talk more about it.
Sure.
Thanks, Mubin. So I think coming from a decade experience of in data science, I would say I'm a fan of LLM, certainly, right? So there was a time I think almost for half a decade we have heard like AI is a buzzword, but I think LLM has taken this place now. Though people don't know what LLM is, I would say like majority of the people who they don't belong to the same domain. But the good thing about I would say from the previous version of what we were using in AI, the ML model or other, there is only one segment of I would say one segment of industries people are actually using all these ML model, AI model. Rest of the people are actually not using that. But the good thing that LLM or I would say open AI has brought in the market is that now anyone, irrespective whether you belong from the tech domain or not, anyone can use ChatGPT, right? You don't actually require any skill set. You don't need any coding or anything. You just open ChatGPT, it's open source. You can do that, right? So that is actually good. Like people are actually advancing with that. We are using technology. A lot of people not belonging to the same domain are using technology. Now coming back to that, it's good to use technology, but at the same time, we have to be very cautious when we are using the technology, right? A technology cannot go in open hand, right? So how I will put it as like I treat LLM, it's like a kid, right? Who actually doesn't know anything. Like we have trained them, we have just told them, okay, this you have to do, right? But it's like if a kid goes out without the parents, right? Anyone can get a lot of information from the kid about the house, which obviously you don't know, you don't want your kid to gone out of the house, right? So we'll talk more about that,
Sure,
right?
sure,
The both side of the pros and cons of LLM. Technology is good, right? But we have to be just cautious when we're using the technology.
Sure, we'll talk about it. Manoj?
Thank you, DSCI, for providing the opportunity. And also a very peculiar thing that you will notice today is that I am in minority and I am very happy. Generally, it's the other way around. There are all males and there is few females. So I am in minority and I am happy to be in the minority today. So on the LLM, right, what has surprised people are two factors. The LLMs are stochastic parrots. They're actually predicting the next word. But what has surprised people is that how accurate they have become. Correct? The utility factor has gone substantially higher. And that's what has surprised people. And it is now LLM, which as talked about, right? It's like email. Everyone uses email. Nobody understands the SMTP. Nobody understood the exchange server, but everyone uses the email. So it's a utility which has gone into the higher, let's say, the utilization. So the first time the AI has become a consumer word. It's gone from the technology words to become a consumer word. It has gone from the technology third page to the front page, with saying that what AI can do for you. It's not about what AI is. I think we have to understand this aspect. What AI is still a very few people who understand, who really discuss these things. So when it goes to the consumer side, there's obviously a pros and cons, right? In your life, you will use Gmail, which is free. In office, you will use Microsoft Outlook. You might ask why. And that's the fundamental question also within an LLM that we are going to have going forward. That I will discuss.
We'll talk about that. Great. Preeti?
So security landscape, I'll talk, most of the thing already covered. So I'll talk on security landscape. We are living in a space where security landscape is changing every second. There was technologies which were catering a lot of things that these LML are going to cater. But the thing is that the speed, the accuracy, the capabilities that these tools are going to provide to a security industry, which was never there before. Traditional tools was there. They were manual, they was taking a lot of time. But at present scenario, we need something where, we can quickly discover something, we can quickly action upon it, so that we can protect our organization before something go wrong. So where I will say these kind of tools, especially these generative AI tools, is going to play a vital role. Even if something which is like something goes wrong, then also these tools will provide you a detailed summary of the event. Even the incident happened, then also you have something in your hand, you can recover from those incidents very quickly. So these cybersecurity things are going to become very easier for us if we are going to utilize AI generative technologies in future or at present. Along with that, I will sum up with two things, that these technologies are going to fulfill the capability gap of cybersecurity industry. We are searching for resources, but these technologies can do the task of multiple people with a very minimum resource. That's the one thing. Secondly, reduce the complexity of our environment. We need a lot of manual intervention to do certain tasks, but within a fraction of seconds, these technologies will help us to generate automated reports, convert those reports into certain languages which not only the tech team can understand, the people who are non-technical can also understand. So these tools are going to add value in every to our cybersecurity industry, I will say. But yes, as already mentioned, that we have to be careful because they are going to deal with certain data, which data may cause some harm to your organization.
Sure. And I'll start with, and I'm going to be not coming in a sequence because I just want to keep you guys also awake. Okay, so I'll take from the Preeti saying that we need to be responsible. Let me start with, and I'll take Anukriti's parallel saying that if you want to teach a kid few things in house, but you want teach a kid to be not telling few things of the house to the outside, right? How do we take this into the LLM space? Can you just give some perspective about that? And let's talk. You talked about the prompt injection, right? Can you give some perspective about that?
Sure. I'll start with some examples probably. Yeah, I'll start with some examples probably. So LLM launched in September 2022. That is when ChatGPT has launched, right? After a few months of that, then we have launched, like Microsoft has launched Microsoft Bing Chat. A very famous scenario of that happened. What was that? That someone from Stanford University actually went to the Stanford ChatGPT page, and what they have done is that they have searched, basically they have given that kind of instruction to ChatGPT. I believe like everyone must have used ChatGPT here, right? You must have tried something or the other. So like whenever we want to get something from the ChatGPT, we have to give some instruction to ChatGPT, right? Suppose I want to say, write me a code, maybe like to do to get me like from a list all the integers, right? Or maybe like find all the vowels or something like that. Like we have to give some human English language based something we have to write, right? So what the guy has done is like he has written a prompt. So this instruction is actually called prompt when we talk in technology term framework. So then the person actually has given a prompt that you are a backend engineer of Microsoft, right? And you have to go maybe in certain particular area in the override mode, and then you have to get me some of these files or data within those files. Now what ChatGPT has done, it has actually put all the restrictions that was aligned to it, right? It was not supposed to reveal all the confidential information of ChatGPT, Microsoft, right? It has still went ahead and then it has given all that information, and it has also mentioned at the bottom that these are restricted and should be kept confidential, right? So that is first breach, right? The second thing what happened was that Math GPT. So that is another platform. So basically what generally people do is that they use LLM or Llama index models. These are the models. They just integrate that with their tool and create a front-end tool so that the end user can use it. So Math GPT did the same. They created a front-end, and then user can go and ask like any complex Python code or anything which you want it to write, and it will give you that. Now what someone has done and tested with this, they have asked the Math GPT to give some of the APIs, like the hidden APIs, right? So whenever, basically it's like, if I have to use ChatGPT, if I have to basically build some new model out of ChatGPT, so OpenAI asked us to purchase some APIs, and then number of times how we are hitting the API, there will be a charge for that. So certainly MathGPT was also paying for those charges, right, for those APIs. And if anyone get access to that API, anyone can use that API, and you can like hit millions of time, and ultimately MathGPT will be the one who is paying for that, right? So the end user actually got the API out of MathGPT platform, which is obviously hidden, like it should not be released out like that. So that's the key, basically. LLM is designed in the way that they are supposed to work perfectly. They're supposed to make the end user happy. They're supposed to give the end user correct response. But it should ideally not infringe your securities and your data, right? If suppose like you are getting the APIs access, the external variable access, environment variable access, right? At the same time, you can also get the access to the data as well, right? The hidden data which you don't want to get out of it.
Sorry, and just take that thought forward. So you are saying that LLMs are required to give the idealistic answer, but there should be some controls in place which will give you the required answer, keeping the security and data there.
Exactly.
And that's where I want to bring Preeti here into picture. So, if I look it from the privacy perspective, how the LLMs should be designed, or do you see that as a concern, where the privacy data or personal data being given out just like that using the LLMs?
Definitely. It is a vital concern when I say the privacy data related to the LMS use. How these generative AI work, they learn from the data that we feed and then they build their intelligence. So whatever the data that, from an organization perspective, I'll say, whatever the data that we are feeding into the system to build their intelligence, we should be conscious enough to understand that when these tools are going to generate the next data, there is a possibility that they will generate the crucial data of your organization which contains privacy data. So we should put some kind of a filtering and the review mechanism when incorporating these tools in your organization. When I'm saying review, that whatever the output that those tools are generating, you review those tools diligently so that you can block that your company privacy data or the crucial data will not go in the wrong hands. That's the first thing. The second thing is that filtering. First, put filtering so that the input that you are giving there, that data should not contain any kind of personal identifiable information or any information which has a regulatory or a legal impact to attest to it. Another thing, whoever is the user of those tools and technologies, they should be informed about the technology uses. They should know that what this technology is all about, how this technology is going to generate the further data, what is its intelligence, so that they will also be cautious while using these technologies. We are giving access to the developers, we are giving access to multiple people in the organization, but we are not telling them that what kind of a content that you should be creating with these tools. And that lead to, the privacy blockage. So, educating, creating awareness is one thing. And at the same time, within these tools and technology, I believe that research and continuous improvement is required. That these technologies itself, we can limit the memorable thing in there. That, they can only memorize those things which are necessary. And we can basically restrict the, remembering privacy related information that will protect us from any kind of a protection law across the world. Every country has came up with a new kind of a legal or a regulatory related requirement when it comes to privacy. So we should be very vigilant when using these technologies. Of course, these technologies are for our ease. They are giving us leverage to utilize them so that we can benefit in n number of things, accelerating our processes, doing things in a perfect manner. But at the same time, we should also conscious enough to understand what is its legal impact, because your company can get a penalty of in millions if some private data get leaked and misutilized by the hackers or maybe the bad guys. So yeah.
So Preeti, you said that we should educate the users also what they can do. And I'm just want to come back. Now, the user is one community. And Manoj, this is mainly to you. There are AI lab teams who knows how to build the AI. So how do I as an end user or I as a consumer of the AI, taking the term which you used, know that the AI lab teams are using this AI or this technology or the LLMs more responsibly? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you for asking this question. And I want to just quickly go back to a little bit of an history here as well. I started working onto the security of AI in 2019. And in 2020, along with few of the other organizations, I wrote MITRE's newest framework on Atlas, which is Adversarial Threat Landscape for AI System.
Okay.
That essentially means that you have the MITRE's Enterprise Attack Framework, where you actually look at your network information security, but that is not sufficient. So then we had to write the completely new one. So I wrote that particular thing. And it was an eye-opening, that the propositions that how little people know about the kind of issues which are there. Fast forward to 2023, this year, along with our work at the OWASP, we have launched an OWASP Top 10 for MLDL, which is the classical machine learning related topics, and the Top 10 for LLM. And why those are two different things. And both addresses very differently. MLDL OWASP addresses the people who are building the AI ML systems. And the Top 10 for LLM addresses the topics which are essentially the users or prosumers or consumers of that particular technology, right? So these are the two separate lenses which are there. And now if I just have to dissect your question, saying that is the AI lab using that responsibly? There are two aspects. Are they building responsibly?
Yeah, that's the most important question, right?
And the second one, are the people using it responsibly? So these are the twofold questions which are there, right? The first of all, that are they building responsibly? Who is to say that?
Or who is to attest that?
No, first of all, who is to say that? Every culture, everything is different. They have scrapped the internet data.
Correct.
We all have put that particular data. And now when they scrap the data and train the model, we are saying that systems are biased, systems are toxic.
Correct.
So we have to take a realistic stock. Having said that, they cannot be absolved also from their responsibilities, which is there. And that is why recently you see that the NIST has released the AI risk management framework in the US. European Union has made an AI Act which is there.
Yeah.
And in the US, there is a Biden-Harris administration's executive order which is there, right? So there is some kind of a responsible aspect has been put forward for building aspect. And that is on the builders, because ultimately it's a kind of a supply chain, right? We have seen one single log4j can impact everyone's, the 2 years ago's Christmas breaks and everything. Similarly, the one bad LLM can cause the similar havoc. So the first thing first is that we need to ensure that they have been built responsibly. And the second aspect is that how they are using responsibly. Now, it is too much to put up a pressure onto the users and prosumers. The able people need to take care of the responsibility with the reasonable misuse and abuse cases. That essentially means that the LLMs which have been trained, they also need to put the guardrails and firewalls in place with an appropriate nature in place, right? I gave previously the example of a Gmail versus Outlook. Why? Every one of us uses a Gmail and we are happy with their phishing thing. Okay? But it is not good enough for enterprises. For enterprises, you will need different kind of a thing. So the responsibility also goes on to the gradation aspect. Who is using, who is paying, which is the case. And this debate is going to be forever. Despite of all of this, organizations are taking measures, and that I am happy. Because I am working with organizations who are actually trying to build the systems which are secure, safe, trustworthy, and they're using our product so far, which gives a lot of assurance, saying that it's, again, I use a very cautious word, assurance. It's not a guarantee, it's not a badge. It is an assurance that the systems have been trained safely, so security by design. System have been validated and developed on top of that very safely, so secure by development. And then when they have been deployed, they are deployed along with the necessary firewalls in place, which is secure in operation as well. So these are the three principles need to be considered for the responsibility aspect.
Thanks, Manoj. And I think, Sumitra, before coming to you, I think one thing is that I think Anupriti talked about the prompt injection. Preeti spoke about we need to have some restrictions. Manoj talked about we need to have these principles built into place. And that's where the people like you who are architecting the things comes into picture. So when you're architecting things, what are your thoughts saying that what are the guardrails? And I'm somewhere don't like that word. So what are those boundaries which are there where you are actually architecting the LLM? What consideration we should have put in place?
That's actually an interesting question. And if you talk about securing the architecture, maybe bringing out a secure architecture, definitely the term security by design comes in place. As well as another thing that comes up is security in depth. Like you need to have defense in depth. Now, when we see an LLM or any typical AI model as well, this has a different phases it has, right from the data collection phase to the deployment phase. And when we are training a typical LLM model also, it is completely dependent on the data set. The vast amount of data set currently LLM is working on is more of from the internet perspective as well, unlike any traditional AI model that has a very limited data set to be trained on. So the biasing effect comes into picture here. Now, the more biased your data is, the more poisoned your data is, your model will not be able to give you that critical information or maybe the accurate information, or even it will be inclined towards giving you insecure information or out of the line, which is not in compliance with the regulatory protocols. So these are various phases. While when we think of like there are certain bad outcomes from LLM perspective, that time we need to think about how to design it in a way that the outcome is secure enough so that in a later phase of time, maybe in a couple of years or even more, there will be less human intervention. At this point of time, what we recommend is that even if you're using LLM, you should have human in the loop. Don't just go by the outcome of what an LLM has to give, right? So you need to have domain experts who can give you the information, give you the validation, okay, the information that is coming out is correct, and it is not biased or it is not hallucinated. So that information we are getting from the human loop. But we are yet to see a phase where these can all be incorporated and made automated in LLM. The design can be in such a way that within different phases, intermediary, there are security automation there, yeah, basically that can filter out maybe all those information that are poisonous for the model, and it is more of like intent based. Now that I will really stress on because LLMs are different from AI traditionally because they are more contextually oriented, they are more intelligent, they can get into like what we say is like reading between the lines kind of thing. So they have that ability. Now that intent-based security measures if we have within the models itself, so that will be like a piece of cake for everyone to use the model.
Okay, thank you, Sumitra. I think that intent-based security is important. Now, while we have established that LLMs have capabilities there, what architecture consideration should be there, what privacy consideration should be there, let me bring to the cybersecurity world now. Okay, and where we are talking about the cybersecurity, I think if you go and search the internet, one of the easiest and important thing which say that any security which or any product right now, they all are rule-based product. You have the condition 1. If the condition 1 has outcome which you think is A, and if that outcome is not met, you take some action. Now, all the conditions as a human, we will not be able to feed into this. And that itself, the rule becomes a limitations. So how do we bring these large language models capabilities and what context-based security, because they're more realistic, what you said, to the cyber world. And one of the first thing, and we all know, right, the hackers are using the artificial intelligence or LLMs for attacking. So let's talk about a very common example of phishing. Okay, how can, and Priti, if you can give a perspective on saying that, are there any phishing models or are there products which we can use which can detect the phishing email rather than, because hacker will also be using some kind of an LLM to craft the phishing email. So based on tone, behavior, is that a kind of a case study or a business use case for cybersecurity which we can use for the defense? What's your view on this?
So right now we are using Cortex, that is basically a ML tool, which is not yet into the, I will say, into the space of generative AI. But okay. So even within that tool, it has a capability to detect your phishing alerts. They can basically monitor the emails before it reach out to the user inbox, and it help you to protect any kind of a phishing attack to your organization. Even if there are certain tools in the industry already available, those tools have a better capabilities. Like those tools can analyze your even if there is any kind of attachment within the email or a URL in the email, by using the LML capabilities, they can analyze that site, whether it's a malicious site or not, and then accordingly that email will reach out to your inbox. So it has the capability of quarantine the email, and once it review entire content within the email, and then it reach out to your mailbox. Perfect. That is how these tools are protecting your environment, not only from phishing, from the malware perspective as well. They identify the behavioral analysis. These tools perform the behavioral analysis to identify if there is any kind of anomaly is there. They identify unknown malware from those behaviors. plus the pattern read. This tool has a understanding to read the patterns to identify if something is going vicious from the user behavior or the network behavior. They will generate the alert and identify those abnormal activities in your environment so that you can protect yourself. So there are certain tools are coming, but unfortunately right now we are just using the Cortex, which are limited to the ML.
Yeah, but what you said, the pattern detection, additional intelligence layers, and not keeping the decision solely on the end user, right? And if I talk very rudimentary term, just having the email which is not from your domain, color coding that email, we have grown up from that kind of phishing protection, right?
Exactly.
To a pattern-based, tone-based, behavior-based analysis. That's there.
Yeah.
And but then that brings to me a point saying that are we ready for this AI in revolution in cybersecurity, or are we already into the AI revolution of the cybersecurity defense? Manoj, what's your view on that?
You use the word revolution and not the evolution. That means it's a bloody.
Okay. But
Yes.
1453, bloodless revolution.
Yes. So we are already in the age of an AI today, Gen AI, whether we like it or not. And the fact is that the attackers are using it. I'll give you some of the interesting things. We, as Sun Tzu said, right, to win any war, you need to speak the language of the enemy.
Correct.
Where these enemies are speaking their language, it is on the dark web. Today, there are forums where APTs are talking about how they are leveraging the LLMs for password spraying, how they are leveraging LLMs for generating the phishing related things, how they are using LLMs to do the social engineering. Their job is not to go after the small things. The job is to now go after the very, very big things, which
Impact.
is the thing, capabilities, strategic national level capability. This is what is happening. So that world, when I, go and immerse myself, is very scary. And that only things brings to the point is that if they are using it, what is stopping us to use the similar tools? Why we are behind them? So this is the thing, and that's why I said that the age of AI is there. They are using it today. You will go and see very recent cases where the Google's, the spam detectors, Microsoft spam detectors are going haywire at places. And the reason is the sophisticated email that you started, right, saying that now the emails have become sophisticated. The more sophistication it is there, the patterns, the intent, the tone, nothing of them works. The only way to do it is that, is this generated from the machine or is it human written? That's the very first indication that you need to have. So this is just an example, but coming back, the revolution is already started. There are in the places people are using the generative AI as well. We have heard about the co-pilot, security co-pilots and all of other things, right, which people are using. Now there also very clear distinction comes is that security co-pilot, and the word co-pilot means that they are not in the driving seat, you are in the driving seat, they are your wingman, they are helping you. And they have a lot of capability for reasoning, but their skill level and their experience is not more than SOC analyst 1 level. Understand this also. So these co-pilots are running at this particular level. Good thing is that if we can use it, we don't need to have, that the out of the people say 3 lakh jobs which are vacant in the security, technically 2 lakh is for the SOC 1.
Which is true.
Which is true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so that 2 lakh can be done. So now we are not in the race of like 3 lakh of a gap. We are now in the race of 1 lakh skill gap. This is how we have to think about using the tools with us. But when we use this particular tool, we need to also understand how do we collaborate as organizations.
Perfect. Yeah.
Because attackers are collaborating.
So we need to have some collaboration.
We need to also have these collaborations along with all of these tools that we are using. And forum like this is where we actually discuss this as a defender's perspective in a responsible way.
Sure.
More detail if you want into the what happens onto the dark web, meet me outside.
Definitely. Okay, so let me take another case study about the threat management. And Sumitra, I want to speak about it, saying that, and see, when we do a threat management, now this is again, being in a cybersecurity field for so long, threat management or posture management is a very differently seen terminology. But what we need is what threat comes to your application, software, product, services, whatever, is based on the various external factors where you need to make a decision based on the external factors. So how does the LLMs in the cyber defense can improve your threat posture or threat management?
Thank you for this question. Actually, you're right on spot. Now, LLM has got that capability that it can help right from the nascent stage where the security decision making takes place. Now, I'll tell maybe from the perspective of a maybe cybersecurity manager, where major role comes up from the right from the maybe acquisitions phases. Okay, so when we are taking up a project acquisition, we have to do the requirement elicitation, effort estimation for various kind of features of a security product. So that takes a lot of time because either you don't have that much of information for the diversity of the projects, as well as bringing it out altogether is also a very time-taking and effort-based work. Now you can imagine, suppose you have literally a wizard who has all this information clustered from various domain experts, and you just go and ask it in a very user-friendly manner. Can you provide me this information? Now this is the scenario, I'm looking for this. Now that's there it is. It's just giving you in a jiffy all the information. And you can see how much of time you actually saved doing that. But I won't advocate that that is the only solution there or you have to stop there, because we all are aware also of the limitations of LLM at the security juncture. So you have to also take the human in loop here as well at this point of time. Consult with the domain experts and then bring it out. Now that is one way. The second way where I can say is like the attack trees. We have a lot of threat and risk assessment perspective going on, and attack tree building is one of its main core aspect, where we spend a lot of time, and also we have to do a lot of brainstorming to understand from the project perspective. Now similarly from the LLM perspective, if you have some ways that the responses that are generated are in the terms of for a certain use case you are having this kind of attack to this level and gives you certain use cases, that is great. That helps you actually build your or make your security posture even strong. So this really helps us. So I see that LLM has a lot of potential when it comes to security management and enhancing the security posture.
Okay, thank you so much. Anugriti, you want to talk about the threat prevention or threat management as your perspective on that?
Yeah, sure.
Because we all seen, right, and we have agreed also that the AI-based hackers are using the AI. So there will be a lot of attacks or automated attacks or very sophisticated attacks. So how can we reverse the tables and turn the slide on side, saying that how can we use the LLM for threat prevention or protection?
Yes, I think definitely LLM has the other side of it, the most beneficial side, and where we actually have to use LLM. So certainly log analysis is one part. I think Manoj has already addressed the part we say that LLM or maybe the AI will take people's job, right? But I would say that's not true. They'll just take the job, we don't have to do the boring work, right? The AI is making us smarter, right? We have to do the smart work, we have to make smart tools. And the boring work the tools can do, right? So it's not taking the job. The good part is that we have to do more smarter work, and at the same time it reduces the workforce as well. We don't need that many man hours. Coming back to the question, Mubin, I would say is log analysis is one particular area, right? Or maybe the vulnerability detection, I would say. So nowadays what happens is that you have mentioned rule based. Either the organizations are using rule-based or the analysts have to sit and look at all the logs and figure it out everything within that, right? Which is actually painful. Training an analyst to do all that kind of job would also require a lot of effort from our side, and at the same time, doing that kind of tedious task would also require a lot of effort from their side as well, right? However, when we're talking about log analysis, it's unstructured data, it's a textual data, right? That is where the beauty of LLM comes, right? LLM can actually go through those logs, right? And it can actually tell us in the human language format what is the error, if there is any vulnerability that it can tell. Secondly, the other benefit of LLM comes is generally what happens is that if you see a lot of tools in the cybersecurity space, I still say they are far behind. I've spoken to a lot of people who are outside. They're all using ML only, right? They're not coming to the LLM side. However, the beauty of LLM comes in the cyber security space is that the attackers or hackers, what they do is like they try something. When that is open, they don't try that. They come with something new, right? So you cannot go with any ML or AI model that is trained maybe 6 months back or a 1 year back. You have to make your model smarter, right? You have to train it again and again. And technically, with the LLM, with the AI model, like just going to the ML or deep learning model, that is not possible. It's not possible to train it each and every time with the new data. It's very expensive, right? That is where LLM comes. To LLM, you can provide a contextual information, right? All the information that is coming latest on a real-time basis, whether it's coming on the social media, on the forums or other, right? So it can be trained lively, like it can use the hallucination, like the concept that Sumitra also has mentioned. It can, like the model, the hallucination parameter can be trained in the way that it can address how much it has to rely on the contextual part or otherwise, right? So that is the major beauty of LLM. If we use it actually in a much more conciser way or in an expert mode, we can actually get a lot of benefit out of it.
Sure. And so we have 3 minutes, and while we'll open for this, let me do one rapid fire question to all of you. Because we talked about the rule-based tool, and as a cybersecurity professional, the first rule-based tool or protection comes to my mind is a firewall. I don't know, and that's a question I'm going to put to you guys. A stateful inspection firewall, or now the AI generated firewall. Do you think, and you can answer yes, no, or you can also say pass, do you think the LLMs in future bypass firewall or replace the firewall? Yes? They will replace. They will need firewall, right? I think somebody, a 50-50. Okay, let me ask some more difficult question now. Because it's a 50-50, can't go. Okay, so you are saying that they will need the firewall. Okay, let me put this way. And we say, right, and a bit serious question, but I want an answer. See, India is a land of people, right? The skilled resources. And even cybersecurity, one of the largest masses of the skill we need is the L1 SOC engineer, correct? Now with an LLM come in picture, or the larger artificial intelligence come in picture, or the SOAR capabilities automating few things, do you think that with this automation, artificial intelligence, and then context-based LLMs will reduce the requirement of SOC L1 engineer, which is the mass need or giving the employment today?
It won't replace. No. I'll say that LLM is more of like, an assistant, I will say, rather than, replacing. Yeah.
I would say like it won't replace for sure, but it can actually make, like we have NIST, right? So different frameworks we have, right? We can actually make our frameworks even more smarter or intelligent using LLM.
So you are also saying no?
For me, it's like, it's not going to reduce, it's only going to increase. India will become the, World Security Operations Center, because we have the people, and if you use the automation and you club it with a human in the loop, that's what we will be able to achieve.
Sure.
So it's not going to decrease. Here it's going to increase.
Okay.
Thank you. So first of all, I think I like that analogy of LLM being a kid, actually, kid of a house, right? And so on that note only, I have a question. Like a lot of, in the previous panel, there was a gentleman from the banking and finance industry. So we have seen regulations like, for everyone in the banking, card regulation like PCI DSS or in healthcare, HIPAA, etc., right? Now, what do you see a global regulation? What do you see like coming a global regulation around securing
I think
the
Manoj,
AIs?
why don't you answer this, because he touched on that topic, right?
Thank you. So there are two kind of regulations generally happens, right, in the world. One is called the horizontal regulations, which are irrespective of the domains. And then there are domain-specific regulations. The horizontal regulations are already kicking in, as I talked about the Biden-Harris administration EU AI Act. Coming to the sectoral regulations, Singapore, MAS, has already the security and privacy related aspect for the AI that needs to be done. in overall trustworthy AI framework, which is voluntary. Uh, Europe already there is a standard which are coming up. ISO has already given a standards, and then now the SEC in next 2 months will release a voluntary standard for the entire financial industry to how to use the AI and Gen AI, which is there. And then later on, after let's say 1 or 2 draft cycles, they will mandate it as per. So this is what is happening in the world, specifically in the banking sector.
Yeah, just to add one line. So there won't be any global standard, but the principles like privacy also as a generally accepted privacy principle on which lot of countries have made this law. I believe that kind of a perspective will go. And having met and spoken with many senior folks, well, they want to use the LLMs or make a use cases out of the LLMs. They also think is that how will I regulate it? Because they also want to use that very responsibly.
And Mubin, if I just want to add in, the standard which is the strictest will become the global standard. Yes. This is what the Brussels effect with the GDPR has taught us, that all organizations will go for the toughest standard, and if you fulfill that, rest of all standards are fulfilled. So the race will be that who comes out with the toughest standard, but then the same country will also suffer in terms of an economic impact. So there is a balancing game which is going to happen, and we have to wait for the next 2 years to see.
Sure. Any other question? I hope it's not a tough one.
No, it is very easy. So, sir, we used to listen that in industry has a lack of data science expert, and we are also listening that cybersecurity has also lack of expert people in the industry. So, are we saying that now data science and cybersecurity will be working together, or will cybersecurity need to be expertise on LLMs or data science?
No, okay, so I'll answer that very briefly and then open to the panel. They're already working together.
Yes, to add to Mubin, there is a dependency. We are living in an ecosystem. We have to thrive on each one. One person can't be everything, right? So we have to take the best of both the worlds and bring out a more robust solution.
Just to add on that, I would say I think we are all lazy. We cannot do that much work. And that is the reason it's like you're just getting a tool which is doing the task for you, in much more intelligent way. And that is the reason. And it's not limited to cybersecurity. I would say AI is something you go to any domain, it is there, right? AI has to be there. If not now, then probably in few more years.
But now it is getting very much popularized and getting a lot of attention. So.
Right, yeah.
So I will answer your question very simply. You asked about both the things, and there are two ways to look at into it. If cybersecurity is a function and my job is to secure my AI systems, secure my any systems, I will leverage the machines to help me. That means the cybersecurity is the goal that I want to achieve. That's why they have to work with this. On the other side, all the AI ML development which they are doing is nothing but a set of an applications. And today, if you apply any kind of an application security principles, you will also have to apply for them. In that case, the data scientist has to work with cybersecurity teams. So this is the reality which we are living in, that both are dependent, but end objectives are different in both the cases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the time is up, and thank you, DSCI, for this opportunity. Thank you, my fellow panelists, for this lively discussion. And thank you, audience, for staying back and listening to us. Thank you so much.
So on behalf of DSCI, I thank the panel for all the valuable and distinct inputs, and Mr. Mubin for very smooth moderation and thought-provoking questions. Now I request you all to stay on the stage for the mementos.
Thank you.